Welcome to OHV Preservation Ambassador Training. We are going to discuss how to monitor a site. This is the part of the program where you're really encouraged to go out and explore. You're going to identify a site, or we're going to talk about how to identify a site, how to document the condition, and what to do if you find major damage to a site. So what makes up a cultural site? It's really any place with evidence of past human activity, and we put some timelines on it. So anything that's 50 years old or older, we talk about as being historic, and anything 100 years old or older, we talk about being archaeological. But for this program, we're really interested in anything that's 50 years old or older. And when you visit a cultural site, there are artifacts. And artifacts are objects that are made, used, or modified by humans that are portable. And here's some photos with some examples, like projectile points, and we often call those arrowheads. Broken bits of pottery, we call them ceramic sherds. Old cans and historic bottles. There are also objects called features, and those are also made, used, or modified by humans, but they're not portable. So things like petroglyphs and pictographs are also known as rock art. Charcoal kilns and mining buildings and equipment, rock shelters and historic trash scatters, and many more things. So when we monitor a site, really what we want you to do is when you arrive at a location, we want you to explore and look for these artifacts and features. And let us know what it looks like right now. So some examples of these artifacts are projectile points, like I said earlier, but they don't always look like your typical, cartoon projectile point. So really what we're looking for is the base of it that tells us the different time frames and groups that may have produced them. So if you find any of these things, they're very important and we need to leave them in place, but we'd love for you to take a picture and share that with us. Other archaeological artifacts that you may find in Nevada are manos and metates and mortars and pestles. These are objects that were used for grinding material, not just corn and things like that, but all different types of material. And these you can tell exist because they have a smooth surface. But they are stone, and so they've been preserved at the site, so that's why we're more likely to find them. So another type of artifact that you may find in Nevada is broken bits of ceramics, or they call them sherds. And really what we're finding in our area is pottery that kind of looks the same as the ground, so it's a little more difficult to identify. But it is something that's very important. So if you find it, again, just like the projectile points or arrowheads, we'd like you to leave it in place, but also take photos of it because it does also tell us who may have been there trading and other important information about the people that had been here. And other objects you may come across that do preserve a little bit are bone, shell, and other fibers. And these will, again, have to have been made, used, or modified by humans, so it's less likely that you're going to be able to identify these or that you're going to find them at an archaeological site. But if you do, they're pretty darn cool, and we hope, again, take a picture and share that with us. Historic artifacts are a little bit easier to identify because they're pretty much similar things to what we use today. So I'm just going to classify it as rusty stuff. So when you go out, mine sites, old homesteads, any type of place where we have, more modern habitation, you're going to find some rusty stuff. And that's nails, old barrels, can dumps and that kind of thing. And believe it or not, these objects can also tell us quite a bit about the past and who's been there and what time frame and maybe even how many people. You don't have to take pictures of all of it, but just be aware and make note that this is part of the archaeological or historic site. And along with that, there's glass and other materials that you may find in the area. So we're going to ask that you visit, explore, and then photograph things. And we want you to photograph those features, artifacts, and then condition issues, and any kind of signage or other things that are in the vicinity of that cultural site. If you have a large feature, especially if you have a building or something like that, we're going to ask that you take pictures of all the different sides. That way we can see the condition of the structure as it is today, and only take photos of the inside if it is safe. Your safety is number one. And if you have a large panel of, say, petroglyphs, meaning you have like a big rock wall and there's some petroglyphs here and there, and instead of taking a picture of every single petroglyph, because in some areas that's really difficult, just kind of walk from one side to the other taking pictures and have those photos overlap, because then we can always line those up later. All right, and when you find those artifacts like I was talking about, the ceramics or the arrowheads or, really cool can or something like that, we would like you to take a photograph of where it was left. Or if you think it's really important and you have a scale or something like a quarter, something of a standard size, you can take a photo of it after you've picked it up. We just ask that you please replace it exactly where you found it. You have a big can dump or something large like that, you do not need to take pictures of all of it. One big overview picture is great, maybe, and some photos of examples of what you'll find there. That's always helpful too. Now, this is the part where we really need to pay special attention. You go to your cultural site and you see that it's been damaged. And it's the kind of damage that kind of makes your stomach turn, right? Graffiti on top of pictographs or rock paintings, that is something that, usually makes people pretty upset. So that's what I mean by a major impact. You get there and you're just like, oh no, this is damage that can't be reversed. So we want you to make sure that the area is safe. And if it is, go ahead and take an overview photo and treat it kind of like a crime scene. Try not to disturb the area. Don't collect any trash. And in this photo, you can see that the person, we didn't stage this. They actually left their paint can there. So you'd leave that there so that law enforcement can take that into evidence. And if you couldn't tell in the previous photo, this is right on top of the pictograph. This is major damage. So if you can, when you're out there, take a picture close up or zoom in on your camera just to help us clarify what's going on. And luckily, because somebody reported this right away, we were able to get out and clean this graffiti off with permission from the Bureau of Land Management and help from a graffiti removal expert. So just real quick, if you find this kind of damage, don't try and remove it yourself. You can actually end up causing more damage by doing that. Just report it so that an expert can get out and take care of that. This is another impact that kind of makes your stomach turn. This is a historic cemetery with a lot of unmarked graves, and the person showed up and they saw some digging, like fresh digging at the cemetery. So they took an overview photo, again, just kind of setting things up so we know what's going on. And then a close-up photo, again. Doesn't look like they exhumed a body or anything like that, but the problem in these historic cemeteries is things are really close to the surface. So we have no idea what disturbance this caused. So we want to make sure that we report that right away. And human-caused damage is really, these are the most important to document. Mother Nature is going to take these sites back over time, and granted, if there's some erosion coming or something we might be able to prevent, that's awesome to report that. But like in this example, somebody tried to cut this out of the rock surface. We really want to know about that so maybe we can prosecute somebody for their actions or at least educate folks about the importance of leaving these things in place. And that being said, if you run across somebody who's actively, defacing a site or looting or any of that kind of illegal activity, just make sure that you're safe and that you are comfortable, leave the area and contact law enforcement. Sometimes just having notes on the vehicle's license plate or the person and what they're wearing, that's enough information. But again, only collect that if you are safe. Right? And some people may be like, well, why will I take a picture every time I go out and look at at a site. And really, this photographic record developed over time. So if you go out to the same site once a year and you take photos, and those photos are good or bad, when something bad does happen or there's a big change, we have those photos to show that this wasn't a natural decline. This is somebody knocked this over and it's an issue. And then we have a little more information. All right, so we were just talking about we're going to prosecute folks and these photos help with that. Well, there are both state and federal laws that are in place for those who remove, damage, or destroy our cultural resources on state or federal land. And then there's private property laws and that kind of thing as well. So you can look those up, but they all come with pretty stiff penalties and are really intended for those who are really causing a lot of damage. So in addition to the laws that cover archaeological sites in general, there's also laws that have to do with Native American burials. And a lot of this has to do with the desecration of their ancestors. And, nobody likes the idea of anybody excavating their loved ones. So this is additional protections for that and penalties. So just keep that in mind that there are these laws that protect this. Go ahead and fill out questions 3 through 8. And then we will move on to the next segment. Thank you.